everybody, welcome back to the Scott Wingerter Show. Today we're going to talk about the difference between liberals and leftists. And I think the poster child for this whole idea that we have here is HBO's Bill Maher, who recently, this last weekend, came out with this video. So we're going to do a quick reaction video to this, and then we're going to get into it. So Bill Maher is what I would classify as a liberal, right? I'm a Republican. I'm a conservative, all right? We are not going to agree on a whole bunch of things, but there are some things that Bill Maher and I would absolutely agree on. So, for example, the First Amendment. Do I think that people have freedom of speech? Yes. Does Bill Maher? Yes. So like even, D-bags like the KKK when they're, marching down the street looking like the ghosts from Pac-Man, I may not like the speech that they are spewing out of their mouth, but they have a constitutional and natural right to say their hateful, vile, disgusting speech, right? Bill Maher and I would agree on that point. We would both think that the KKK is a bunch of lunatics that, are crazy and they're disgusting human beings and subhuman cockroaches. No one's disagreeing there. And we would both agree that they have the right to spew their vile hatred towards, anybody that doesn't look like them. That's an example of what I'm talking about. Liberals and conservatives used to, and I would argue still do to this day, agree on those principles that made America, that come directly from the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, etc. When I'm talking about politics in a classroom environment with students, right? They'll ask me what my political persuasion is. And I generally try to keep that to myself in a classroom environment, but I'll say something to the effect of I'm a constitutional conservative and a classical liberal. And so this whole idea of liberalism, literally, that's what made America what it has become. If you go all the way back to the founding, Jefferson, when he's writing, the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and these ideas of natural law and natural rights, that is the quintessential ingredient to liberalism. It's the idea that you have, as a human being, natural rights that nobody can take away from you, least of all the government. Now, liberals and conservatives don't disagree on the principles, but rather they disagree on how to implement those principles within the society itself. Leftists, on the other hand, are something completely different. And so it's just refreshing to me that even if Bill Maher and I were to sit down and have a beer, we're probably going to disagree on a whole bunch of issues, but that we can still at least agree on some fundamental points. So let's take a look and see what he's talking about here.
And finally, new rule. As one of the few people in the public eye who's gone through life and never had kids, someone has to tell me, why am I always having to defend them? I don't even like kids. But I also think it's every adult's job to protect them.
Absolutely.
Have you all been watching the Max documentary called Quiet on Set, The Dark Side of Kids TV? OMG. Nickelodeon, it wasn't a studio, it was Neverland Ranch with craft services.
Disgusting.
It is just scene after scene, clip after clip of the child stars of their day being subjected to obviously inappropriate, highly sexualized degradation, and quite a few pickles going through glory holes.
Disgusting.
I was grossed out, and I've gone camping with John Waters. I kid you, John, I love you. So I don't know if this documentary is the talk of your town, but it is out here because it didn't just expose a dangerous workplace. It also exposed hypocrisy. Because it must be pointed out that when the evil governor of Florida was saying the exact same thing about kids and creepy stuff at Disney, that liberals now find intolerable at Nickelodeon, he was dismissed as a hick and a bigot. But why would a kids' content factory like Disney be all that different than the one at Nickelodeon? A 2014 CNN report discovered that at least 35 Disney employees had been arrested for sex crimes.
How? How do you have a theme park, Disney, that's literally the entire point of your existence for that theme park is to get kids in, and you're not doing freaking criminal background checks on your employees around children? That's insane.
Against children, and in 2021, Disney child star Allison Stoner confessed she only narrowly survived the toddler to train wreck pipeline. The next year, child star Cole Sprouse told the New York Times that young actresses at the Disney Channel were heavily sexualized from an early age. You know, Willie Sutton said he robbed banks because that's where the money is. And the reason we find pedophiles in the Boy Scouts and the Rectory and kids' TV is that's where the kids are. DeSantis wasn't wrong, but we're so tribal now, the left will overlook child fucking if the guy from the wrong party calls it out.
He's not wrong. Bill Maher is, to his credit, it's not like he's a huge fan of Ron DeSantis. I can promise you he's not. But have we become so tribal that you can't even look at a situation like, pedophilia in these freaking entertainment companies and say, okay, no, that's wrong. What is going on in our world these days where, you'd have to surrender your party affiliation, if you will, because, you happen to agree with a guy, even though he's got an R next to his name?
Sure, Nickelodeon messed up Amanda Bynes, but the Mickey Mouse Club was where Britney Spears got her start, and she's perfectly fine. And get this, after Brian Peck, who was one of the lead creeps at Nickelodeon, served 16 months in prison for the molesting he did there, Disney hired him. Naturally, to work on a children's series.
Of course.
Oh, for pedophiles in Hollywood, it's a small world after all.
Oh. Disgusting.
And not just Hollywood. There are Instagram moms these days who are practically only fansing their itty-bitty beauty queen daughters by having them wear skimpy bikinis and eat bananas to build social media stardom. They're called sharenters, a hybrid of sharing and parent. I call them pimps, a hybrid of pimp and
Seriously, if you're a mom out there and you're exploiting your daughter and literally sexualizing her for, profits, yeah, he's not wrong. You're a pimp and you're disgusting.
And people who believe in social justice have agreed this is wrong and this is bad, and exposing kids to an adult world of lurid costumes and garish makeup borders on abuse. Now, hurry up and get in the car. We're late for Drag Queen Story Hour. Not that there's anything wrong with being a drag queen, but maybe it's time to admit that sometimes Drag Queen Story Hour is more for the queen than the kids. Sure, kids love a clown, but does the clown have to have tits? And when I
Seriously, what the hell is happening to our country?
see a 5-year-old tipping.
Look at this.
Tipping? At a bar under a sign that says it's not going to lick itself? Do I have to pretend that's cool in order to keep my liberal ID card? Sorry, I can't do that.
That right there. Yes. You shouldn't have to give up your, quote, liberal identity because you're taking a stance against basically sexualizing children. That has never been a principle of the left until very recently. And why that's a principle of the left is beyond me. And obviously Bill Maher, that's something that he would agree with, because that's insane. Yeah, I've never liked Democrats. I've never voted for a Democrat in my life. All right. But like, I couldn't imagine 25 years ago, people on the left acting in this way. He's right. He shouldn't have to surrender his liberal ID card because he's not for sexualizing children.
If you want kids to be more tolerant, why not have handicapped people read them stories? Kids are more likely to encounter disabled people than drag queens in life. Geez, can't we just go back to the good old days when kids were read simple stories with simple morals like, if you're a lonely single man, just make a boy out of wood. I've said it before, wokeness is not an extension of liberalism anymore. It's more often taking something so far that it becomes the opposite. Teaching kids not to hate or judge those who are different, great. Proud we got there, all for that. But at a certain point, inclusion becomes promotion. And contrary to current progressive dogma, children aren't miniature adults wise beyond their years, they're morons.
Can confirm. Can confirm.
They're gullible morons who'll believe anything and just want to please grown-ups. And they don't have any frame of reference. So they normalize whatever's happening. That's why endlessly talking about gender to 6-year-olds isn't just inappropriate. It's what the law would call entrapment. Which means enticing people into doing something they wouldn't ordinarily do. For example, after 9/11, there were several cases of overzealous federal agents leading sad losers into terrorist plots, like the undercover FBI agent who got 7 out-of-work dudes in Liberty City, Florida, to sign on to a plot to bomb the Sears Tower in Chicago. Oh, please, these guys didn't even have a gun. But when someone said, wouldn't it be cool if we taught the man a lesson and blew something up? They said, yeah, that would be kind of cool. Entrapment, suggesting someone into something they wouldn't otherwise do. And if you think that some of that isn't going on with gender in schools, you're not watching enough TikTok videos.
I pledge allegiance to the queers.
I'm not allowed to be out as trans non-binary at school. My response to this is to be as obnoxiously queer as possible.
There's a certain kind of activist these days who wants to take heterosexuality, old school, old-fashioned, boring, minding its own business heterosexuality, and lump it in with patriarchy and sexism and racism and tell kids, wouldn't it be cool if you were anything but that? It also seems to be the theme of kind of a lot of kids' books these days. I never used the phrase gay agenda because I thought it was mostly nonsense, and it is, mostly. But a director for Disney television animation did say after she was hired,
the showrunners were super welcoming to my not at all secret gay agenda. I was just wherever I could, just basically adding queerness. No one would stop me and no one was trying to stop me.
South Park got that one right, huh? Put a chick in it, make her gay, right?
look, I'm all for adding queerness wherever. I put some in my drink before I came out here tonight. But maybe we should think about giving kids a break from our culture wars for a minute, or at least until the election is over.
So I 100% agree with everything the guy just said, for the most part. He's absolutely right. And I think the biggest point here that needs highlighted is where he said that the progressive wokeness has gone so far left that it's basically leaving the liberals behind. And we see this happening in our politics. That's why Kristen Sinema of Arizona and, the senator from West Virginia, Joe Manchin, aren't running for re-election. because they're liberal Democrats. They're probably the last two liberal Democrats left in the freaking Senate, and they can't go along with it anymore. So they became independent. They left the Democratic Party, and they're not running for re-election because they can't really get on board with it. It's time to understand the difference between leftist progressives and liberal Democrats, because there's a huge difference. And the leftists, they're what I refer to as the neo-Jacobins. So if you go back to the French Revolution, the Jacobins, what were they trying to do? They were trying to tear down every single institution in the country. It's so stupid. It would be like getting a group of people into a building and saying, all right, this building's terrible and it has to go. And they pull all four walls down at the same time and then are stunned when the roof collapses on them. That's progressivism. That's neo-Marxist, progressive, leftist ideology that's infecting the world today. So look at what's happening across the college campuses and universities in America right now with the pro-Palestinian protests. Look at what happened at the Golden Gate Bridge. And you can see I made another video on that. It's entitled "The Pro-Palestinian Protests Are the Real Fascists," because they are. They're calling for the destruction of the Jews. I mean, my goodness. How much more Nazi can you get than that? The left, the progressives, the Marxists, the neo-Jacobins, whatever you want to call them, they're anything but liberal, because liberals have always maintained the mantra that, okay, even if I disagree with you, it's your right to say it. Liberals have always had this idea of actual legitimate tolerance. And you don't see that at all with this extreme leftist movement that's going on in the country right now. Israel's not allowed to exist. Jews can't go to school. If you're not for the Green New Deal, well, then, you are a racist and a bigot and a homophobe, and you want dirty air and dirty water, and you want to destroy the planet. And you have to do everything that we say you do. And we're always going to constantly be moving the goalposts on you. And that is the whole entire movement. And I just don't see that, Bill Maher's going to be putting up with it anymore. He can't. He's an actual liberal, and he's an intellectually honest person. I may have disagreements with him on certain political issues. Fine, so be it. I can tolerate that. And he can tolerate my views, which, he thinks are wrong as well. Great. We can have a civil discourse between the two of us. I've seen, people like Ben Shapiro go on with Bill Maher, and they have a debate, but it's a civil debate. And yeah, they don't convince each other at the end of the day, but it's a civil debate. We can't have that with the leftists in this country. You're going to do what they say that, to do, or else you'll get canceled. You'll lose your job. You'll be labeled as a racist. They'll destroy your life. This is what they're trying to do. They're trying to destroy every single institution in America. And it's time we got really serious here in America about stopping that. I'm a conservative Republican. Obviously, I want conservative policies passed in government. But I think it's really time for the Republican Party to take a look at the situation and basically put up that big tent that Ronald Reagan was talking about 30 years ago. And there is space in that tent right now for these liberals that are basically homeless politically. And I would really encourage, I don't think that Bill Maher's necessarily, quote, red-pilled, but there's room in our tent for people that even if we disagree politically on some issues, I would rather have them as a voting bloc voting to stop the progressives that are trying to tear down the country. So we'll see what happens, but all right. Well, thanks for watching, guys, and make sure that hit that like and subscribe button. Make sure that if you're finding this on a reel or a YouTube short, that you go back and you look at the whole video so that you have the opportunity to digest everything that we're saying here, because this is really important stuff. All right. So we thank you blew it up. I want to shout out to all the subscribers that have subscribed so far. We just hit over 500 this week in under a month. So we're really super excited about that and super impressed. And we owe it all to you guys. So thank you. And I also want to shout out to the Dockline Studios for allowing me to film here. And a big shout out to my producer, Jordan, for all the hard work that he does. All right, guys, we'll see you next time.